So as we talk more about the Atlanta Falcons, a few weeks ago we talked about the idea of okay, coming week 5, they're going to have four main guys that will be available to come off of IR. What are they going to do with those guys? And we went through Isaiah Oliver, Deion Jones, Marlon Davidson, Jalen Mayfield, right? That's the four main guys that went to IR at the start of the season that they would have decisions made on. So we talked about, I told you that I thought that Isaiah Oliver would be the first to come off and get activated. They like what he did. And he even said that he didn't necessarily have to go to IR. He could have come back in a couple of weeks, but with the way D. Alford played, it just made more sense. Just go to IR, get yourself recovered. We'll keep that roster spot and we'll figure it out from there. Well, he's back and he's on the 53 man and he's playing now. We talked about Deion Jones. We told you he'd never play another snap again for the Atlanta Falcons. Guess what? 1 week after he was eligible to come off of IR, he was a Cleveland Brown. And by the way, did you see last weekend? He was activated at 53. In fact, he played for the Browns last Sunday. So we told you about that one. Marlon Davidson was released yesterday. We told you about this. I told you that I thought they would release Marlon Davidson. Look, here's the reality of Marlon Davidson, okay? He had the pick 6 against Tom Brady, and that's literally the only play he's made. He's always hurt. He's always beat up, banged up. And I saw him at training camp. He looked really good physically and this, that, and the other. But unfortunately, he's a guy whose career is 100% defined by he can't stay on the field. So I was excited when the Falcons drafted Marlon Davidson. In fact, I had a chance to interview him right after he was drafted. I was excited. He played inside and outside at Auburn. He played with Derek Brown. He was a 4-year starter in the SEC. Had a lot of high hopes to it. But the reality is that, as we say, you can't make the club in the tub. And like this or not, and this is where you get into the Dolman and Hennessy argument, this regime did not draft Marlon Davidson. That's from the previous regime. So we told you about the fact that he was going to get cut. So we're 3 for 3 so far on the four big guys. So that leaves one spot left. That leaves, what do they do with Jalen Mayfield? Now, I'm going to tell you the same thing now that I told you weeks ago. This is what I believe. And we just told you that as far as Elijah Wilkinson and Jalen Mayfield, Elijah Wilkinson's got a 67.1 Pro Football Focus pass blocking grade. Jalen Mayfield was a 27.6 grade last year, who gave up the most sacks of any interior offensive lineman in the NFL, and I believe was top 10 in penalties as well last year. This is what I believe about Mayfield. Whether they actually navigate him through this year or just sort of let him linger on IR, because you don't have to bring guys off of IR. They can stay there for as long as need be. But remember, in the NFL now, once you activate a guy, you literally, once you start practicing him, okay? And the IR thing is weird now because it's, 4 games instead of 3. But once you get a guy that starts to practice, you have, I think it's 3 weeks to then go in and activate him to your 53-man roster. Or if you don't, then he stays on IR. He has to go to IR for the remainder of the season. But you don't have to bring a guy off of IR. And you also have a limited amount of transactions that are available. You get like 8 IR transactions over the course of the season, right? So if you bring a guy back and put another guy on IR, you got 2 transactions. So it's a little bit screwy, but they've done this to allow teams to kind of, for lack of a better term, right? They do this in the NBA, stash and dash a guy, right? So this is what I believe, is that if Mayfield comes back this year, at best, he will be a practice squad guy. At best, they will put him on the practice squad and just let him stay there. Look, with all due respect, ain't no team in the NFL going to claim Jalen Mayfield. Ain't no team lining up to claim him off the Falcons practice squad. And I do believe this. I think next season, going into OTAs, mandatory minis, training camp, and things like that, I think he will get one last chance to win the starting job next year. It may be Wilkinson. It may not. They may decide to bring him back. They may not. He may get a better offer. I don't know. But I do believe that Jalen Mayfield going into next season will get one last shot to be the starting left guard. And if he can't win the starter's job, he'll be cut. They'll move on from him because there's no reason to keep him as a rotation guy. Look, say what you will about a Colby Gossett. He's actually graded out pretty well. He's actually done a good job this year. He got that one start a few weeks ago. He actually played pretty well. So I can live with a Colby Gossett as one of my rotational guys. So we gave you Isaiah Oliver. We told you he'd be the first guy back and he'd be activated pretty quickly. Check. We told you that Deion Jones would never play another down for the Atlanta Falcons. Traded a week after he was eligible to come off of IR. Didn't play. They showcased him for a quarter in the preseason. And then magically, my arm's broken. And went to IR. And then a week after he was eligible to come off, he's a Cleveland Brown. And he played this past weekend. We told you Marlon Davidson most likely going to get cut. Not a real surprise, but again, I know, listen, I saw him in training camp. I told you, I would have liked to have seen, could he do something? But you add in, too, by the way, how good Taquan Graham has been for this team, a guy that they drafted and they believe in, even though he was a fifth-round pick compared to a second-round pick. They believe in Taquan Graham. They believe in Abdullah Anderson. They believe in the guys that they have to play along with Grady, and they're getting good production out of those guys. Taquan Graham's had a very underrated season. I'll give him credit. He's been pretty underrated for this defense this year. So with the guys that they have and the production that they're getting, there was really not a spot for Marlon Davidson to play. So it was going to be a pretty easy decision that, look, he's in, they're not going to re-sign Marlon Davidson anyway. So you might as well just wait till he's healthy, let him get cut and move on, and then he can go pick up with another, team and see what you've got and all that. But the Mayfield thing will be interesting because, again, I don't know that they will I would not be surprised if they go the whole season and don't activate Jalen Mayfield as far as just even start practicing him or put him on the – I wouldn't even be surprised if they just stash and dash him for this season. But I think the best case scenario that Jalen Mayfield can hope for is the fact that it's going to be a practice squad spot because there's no real reason to put him on the active roster. There's no spot for him. He's not going to play over Elijah Wilkinson. He's really not probably better than Colby Gossett. So, again, get healthy, get yourself ready for next season, get yourself prepared. Maybe he has a good off-season workout program. Maybe he gets it together mentally, physically, everything else, and gets himself ready. But I think he'll get one last chance next year to start for this team. Otherwise, it'll be hasta lasagna, don't get any on you. He'll be cut, just like what Marlon Davidson was. All right, I want to remind you, we want you to make, obviously, Locked On Sports Atlanta your first listen every day, but make NFL Key Predictions, which comes out every Friday on our Locked On NFL channel, your second listen. Hey, Locked On's local experts give you the inside scoop on the 5 biggest games of the NFL weekend, including Sunday and Monday Night Football. Plus, you get betting advice from the field's leading experts from BetOnline. So follow NFL Key Predictions. They come out every Friday on our Locked On NFL channel. It's available on the Odyssey app, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcast from.